Hey, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Andre Beckles, Business Services Rep with the Mayor's Office of Employment and Development, and today we'll be going over resume writing. I want to introduce my co-host, Daisha Thomas.
How you doing? Hey Andre, nice to see you again.
Hey,
I'm a career development facilitator for the community job hubs.
all right. So glad to have you on today. Again, we'll be talking about resume writing, and today is October 6th, 2020. So just updates. MOED COVID-19 updates. All of our centers are currently still closed, but services are still being offered remotely. Employers are still hiring. Job leads can be emailed to jobsclubnwcc@oedworks.com. And all of the jobs are still being posted on Maryland Workforce Exchange, and that's mwejobs.maryland.gov. And then if you're interested in anything that you see on here today, by all means, please go ahead and go to our job board. All right. So some of the opportunities that are on the job board. So COVID job board, current opportunities. So Baltimore Health Corps, they're currently looking for a care coordinator, a care coordinator associate, a care coordinator director, a care coordinator supervisor, a community health worker, office support, and fiscal support. Cinemark, they're looking for laborers, roofers, foremans, and field supervisors. Domino Sugar, they're looking for process supervisors, packaging technicians, maintenance mechanics, credit specialists, production attendants. University of Maryland Medical Systems, looking for meal attendants, food and hospitality service associates, dietary aid, and certified floor technicians, and many more. So if you're interested in any of the opportunities you see here, please go ahead to our COVID-19 job board.
And let me just say, all these opportunities that Andre just discussed, I mean, I know some of my customers have been applying for the community health worker, and especially at University of Maryland Medical Systems, like they're interviewing very fast. I believe that she put in her application last week. She got an interview and a start date. Depending on her background check and everything. So please, if you need to work right now, with COVID-19 kind of at a down spiral right this second, please take advantage of these opportunities or reach out to myself or Mr. Beckles.
Correct. Definitely a lot of the opportunities on there. So if you're interested, go ahead and apply. So this is Baltimore Health Corps. So the Baltimore Health Corps will recruit, train, and employ more than 300 residents. And this is what we were just speaking on, who are currently jobless due to the pandemic, to serve as contract tracers, care coordinators, and community health workers. So definitely, if you're unemployed right now and looking for an opportunity in the healthcare field, by all means, please go ahead and go onto our job board or go to baltimorecorps.org, the URL that's at the bottom of the screen, and go ahead and apply. And it's a great opportunity to get into. It is short term, it is temporary, but then we'll also be assisting those temporary employees find permanent employment opportunities.
Okay. And one thing that Andre didn't get a chance to stress, but I'm sure he stressed it in one of the other Facebook Live events that we've talked about, is that this is skill building. So you can take the skills that you acquire in this position, even though it is short term, and use this in a long-term career. So like he said, at the end of your term, the BSR unit, the business service representatives unit, will be assisting with helping you get placed into something else because you've now learned a new set of skills.
Absolutely correct. And I'm glad you spoke on that, because that's actually what we'll be speaking about today.
Why do I need a great resume? A lot of people ask this question. So we're just going to go over some of the different things of why you would need a great resume. First impression with employers and recruiters. So this is a document that they're going to see before they even get a chance to talk to you. They're going to look at this. They just want a quick snapshot of who you are, what you're looking for, what you've done, and the skills that you've acquired so far. Sells your strongest skills and accomplishments. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we go along through the presentation, and shows how you're a match for a position or project. And most importantly, gets you a job interview. That's the thing. You want to be able to try to get that job interview and get in front of the employer to really sell yourself at that point.
Yeah, that first impression is very important because that's the only thing they'll see about you. They won't see a face. They won't see how you look. They won't be able to even speak to you. So that resume is definitely important. So you can essentially get your point across without even seeing them, or have them like you without them even seeing you. All right. So where can I create a resume? So the first one we're going to start off is with MWE, Maryland Workforce Exchange. So essentially, if you go to that link below, you can complete the registration process. If you already have an MWE account, some of the same information might already be saved in the system, so that's a plus. They have a multi-step resume builder function, and then the final versions can be saved in various formats, and then and you can also create more than one resume. So you're not locked into only creating one resume. You have the option to create multiple resumes for multiple positions, and that's also very important to have different kinds of resumes. And it's also important to have them saved in different versions because some employers might want PDF, some employers might want Word version, some employers might even want a text, depending on the employer or depending on their platform that they're using. So that's also really important. So MWE, Maryland Workforce Exchange, is a great tool and it's free.
Right. And so like you just heard Andre say, it is a great tool. You can create resumes in there. You can do all your job search in there. For people that are receiving unemployment, I think you have to do your job search in MWE. So while you're in there, take the time to really play with your resume. You can upload it in the system. Take the time to really play with it and make it look like the way you want it. And like Andre said, you can have numerous resumes because sometimes we're going to talk a little bit more about that later on. But the numerous resumes are for different positions that you apply for. So you want to put all relevant experience on one resume.
Yeah, very important.
So this is another where can I create a resume? So Indeed, a lot of people have heard of Indeed. So you can go to indeed.com/create a resume, and it creates various templates provided for the individual's choice. Update information fields in the selected template, and the final version can be downloaded. And yes, that can be downloaded. I have downloaded several of my clients and their Indeed accounts and downloaded and sent it to me, just in case if we needed to add something to put an update. So Indeed is also a free resource for job searching as well.
Yeah, and the good thing about Indeed, you can create your resume on there, but then you can also do the quick apply with those resumes. So Indeed is a pretty cool platform. So you can also create the resume, but then also apply for the job opportunity all in the same space. All right. So Resume Genius. Resume Genius is also another good platform that you can use to create resumes. They have various templates provided for the individual's choice, have step-by-step questions to complete the resume, and also a final version can be downloaded. So this is also just another one of the platforms that you can use to create a resume of your liking. And then again, it is free.
And you see, like it says there, you can create a professional resume in just 15 minutes. So everybody has 15 minutes in the day, especially if you're searching for jobs and you want to, or you just want to just kind of update your resume. Because a lot of times, if you're not getting the interview, it could be because of the resume. Either
Correct.
too much information, not enough information, not the keywords that they need, and different things like that.
Yep. So definitely resumes, like we said before, is your first impression. So if you aren't getting those opportunities, like they just said, most times it's because of your resume.
Your resume and your personal brand. Your brand is a shorthand description of what you bring to a team or to the table of employers. You're gonna ask yourself, am I representing my best self throughout my resume? Besides helping you identify your personal strengths, having a brand can pull your resume to the top of the pile. When you realize what your brand is, then you'll know what your key strengths are and proudly display those. You'll be better equipped to notice your transferable skills. Aligning your brand, that's who you are, directly with an employer's opening, who they need, results in targeted resumes.
All right, so transferable skills. These are very important. So the first transferable skill is communication. So the examples are writing, speaking, listening, and using tools like email. The second transferable skill, critical thinking, analysis, problem solving, strategic planning, and decision making. The third one is self management, good time management, organized, motivated, responsible, and reliable. And the fourth one is interpersonal, understanding, diplomatic, discreet, supportive, and assertive. So these four categories or transferable skills are by far um, the most important. And then putting these on your resume can divide you from different cool candidates. So transferable skills are generic skills that you bring to every job. So essentially, like we were speaking about Baltimore Health Corps, the skills that you take there, the skills that you learn there, you can take those and transfer them to a different employment opportunity. Think about the tasks that you've completed in the last job and highlight these transferable skills on your resume and as well in job interviews. So definitely, whatever you learned in the past, you probably might not think it's important, or you probably are designated with a task that isn't part of your job description, but that's a great thing. You can always put that on your resume. You always gain skills from every task that you do. Put it on your resume so when your next opportunity comes around, you can be one of the best candidates or a better candidate in the job pool.
So the applicant tracking software. So I'm sure that you've heard this in some of the other Facebook Live programs. So more and more companies are using ATS, so that's the applicant tracking software, to initially screen applicants. This software is likely to reject resumes for these reasons. Candidates fail to use the employer's chosen keywords. Make sure that you read the job description and make sure that you have some of those keywords in your actual cover letter and your resume. The system doesn't recognize unusual fonts or formatting. So you don't need anything special, Times New Roman, Century Gothic, something like very basic is fine. Candidates lack the preferred experience. So a lot of times you have the experience. A lot of customers I've noticed, they have the actual experience, but they don't have it highlighted on their resume. So if I was a recruiter or an employer and I don't see it on your resume, then I don't know how I could offer you an interview if you didn't tell me already, if you didn't already show me that you have those skills so that we can discuss them in the interview.
Yep, I'm glad you said that because a lot of times job seekers do reach out to me and they communicate that they have this skill, but it isn't on their resume. So I always ask them to go back and update their resumes and make sure they add those skills because I will be sending the resume off to a recruiter or possibly they have to apply online and they will have to get past this ATS. So definitely please put all the information, all your past working experience on the resume if you think it's pertinent for the opportunity that you're applying for. All right. So ATS, applicant tracking software. So it's it's used throughout relevant keywords from the job description. Modify your resume, modify your resume's keywords for different job openings. So one of the platforms that can be used and that we actually use ourselves, it's called ONET. So one yeah. Oh, otonline.org. So we call it ONET, but that's the actual proper URL. So you can use a document format compatible with ATS systems. Chronological resumes with no tables work best and avoid graphics. So those are a couple of things you want to avoid putting on your resume. Definitely, I wouldn't advise putting a picture on your resume. That's more so for like a CV. And then definitely put things in chronological order from the dates in which you've been applied, in which you worked at those past employment.
And as you can see, Andre, we have a question. So does education or experience go first on a resume? So what I usually tell them, if you have more work experience, then I would highlight the work experience and put just the required education at the bottom. But if you have a college degree, it's asking for a college degree. If you have a master's degree and things like that, then I would definitely highlight that over top of the experience if you have less work experience. So like if you're a recent college grad, you don't have a lot of work experience, then you put the education first. But if you have more work experience, then you're going to highlight your work experience. And then you're also going to put your education on there. So Andre, did you have something to add to that?
I'm actually glad you answered that because that definitely is a good question. That's even a better response. And sometimes I even when it comes to education, sometimes I tell my job seekers to leave out when they graduated because it might age yourself or date yourself, and you don't want to put that on yourself before the employer actually gets to see who you are and what kind of impact you could do for the employment opportunity. So, and sometimes I tell them to leave out the graduation date. As long as you put that opportunity there, or as long as you put that educational background there, that you received a degree or that you received a diploma, um, that's sufficient.
So job requirements. Read the entire job posting carefully. We're going to always tell you to make sure that you read the job description. Job titles have different meanings across different industries. Pay attention to keywords and repeated phrases. So this is language you want in your resume too. Look for clues in the company's values. So company descriptions don't always explicitly reference our core values, but when they do, spell them out. Take extra notice or keywords there. So I've even seen people talk about sometimes the company's core values if they're highlighting them on their website. They might just talk about it in one or two sentences in their cover letter, just to let the company know that they did see that and that they are familiar with that work model and they're willing to this is a company that they really want to work for.
All right, job requirements. So you may not fit a job 100%, but you still have, but you should most likely have the skills that they require. So, and you must account for the skills on your resume and in the interview. So definitely everything that you have on your resume, definitely want to reciprocate or just speak on in your interview. So definitely be mindful and cautious everything you put on your resume because then you'll be have you need to speak on it during the interview. Excuse me. So as you review any section of a job description, keep in mind that the most important items are probably listed at the top. So if you fit the first four experience requirements, but miss out on the bottom ones, you still should apply. So definitely the first four or five descriptions or explanation of what you'll be doing on the job are the most important. So if you fit those, if you feel like you've done those in the past or you're capable of doing it based on your skills, apply. Most of the time, the one that fall down to the bottom, those are things you might have to do, but aren't the biggest aspect of that opportunity. So you'll learn that. So you'll learn that at the employment site.
And just make sure that you highlight those things in your resume. And if you have a cover letter, try to touch on a few of those things that may not be as, obvious in your resume. So just make sure that you decide to touch on it in your resume or your cover letter so that people know that you did read the job, because it's important for an employer to know that you did read the job description. The perfect resume, does it exist? So your name should be legible and easy to read. So your name should be big at the top. Email address that is professional. So I know we all have an unprofessional resume at some point in time in our life. Make sure now that we're job seeking that we change the resume to something with our first name, last name. There's something like that. I'll put a number on there, but no hot girl, none of your nicknames or anything like that. That's not necessary for your email address. You're going to list key skills to satisfy the applicant tracking system. So just make sure that you have the required key skills for that particular position. Most recent work listed first, because you would be surprised at how many resumes I read and it's not in chronological order. So it's very difficult for me to understand, um, this person's work history because it's all over the place. Consistent amount of bullets per job. So, I say 3 to 4. I say 3 to 4 is enough. I've seen people that have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Sometimes I think that's excessive. I think you should just try to shorten it a little bit because you don't want your resume really long because if they're not using the ATS system, it could be a person, an office secretary who's reading these resumes and trying to select some people to interview. So you don't want to give them 3 and 4 pages of a lot of too much information and they're just like, okay, it's just too much. I can't even get through all of that.
Correct. And I see we have another question. So, how would you list your work experience if you worked for the same job for over 10 years? So, essentially, so listing a work experience for a long period of time, one, that's critical to show the employer that you've been there for a while, to show them that you have that work history, to show them that what's the word I'm looking for? In a way, saying that you're dedicated. And once you find that opportunity, you're going to stick there. You're not going to be bouncing around the place, to show them that you have the consistency to actually work at that longer, to work at somewhere for such a long time. And maybe now you just need a change. But definitely you want to list that. You want to put the date, and then you want to put the date on when you got there, and essentially if you're still there or if you left already. And then when it comes to like bullet points, since you've been there for quite a while, you could probably post the different position titles in which you had. And under that position title, that's when you post 3 or 4 bullet points. And then put another position title and then post the bullet points of how long or what you did in that position itself. Did you want to add anything, Deja?
No, I think you covered everything. I think the last part is what I was going to add, but you covered everything. So we're good.
All right, great. All right, let me just get to the next slide. All right, cool. So the perfect resume doesn't exist. So job history includes accomplishments. Be careful about the dates in your education, like I spoke about before. Include relevant awards, skills, or interests, and keep it 1 to 2 pages. So definitely, accomplishments are very important. You could talk about being employee of the month, employee of the year, most improved. Those accomplishments to put on your resume are important to show the employer that you're willing to strive, you're dedicated, and you're trying to grow essentially. Be careful about the dates, like I spoke about before, because you don't want to date yourself or age yourself. I understand people might be further on along in their career, and they want to change, but you don't want to put a date to it about when you graduated college or when you graduated high school, because then we're all human. So some employers might look at it like, oh, you're a little bit older and I need somebody younger for the position. You don't want them to see that immediately off your resume. You want them to make that judgment, or hopefully won't make that judgment, but if it happens, make that judgment actually when they get you in there for the interview. And then that way you can speak for yourself so they won't have that pre-notion in their mind. And then with awards and skills, essentially it's the same thing. Listing your accomplishments and keep it 1 to 2 pages. And that's very important. Like Jace just spoke, you don't want somebody to be sitting there reading a resume, a long, drawn out resume, because then that way they're no longer interested because they're no longer interested. And they probably didn't read all the employment history or all the skills or all the transferable skills that you have because it's so long. So they just put it to the side and move on to the next. That's 1 page long. Definitely want to be mindful about the page length.
And just to touch a little bit on what Andre said, just make sure that what you put on the resume is all relevant to the positions that you're applying for now. That is just one of my biggest things with my customers is just making sure that it's relevant and making sure that it's down 1 to 2 pages. And anybody, doesn't matter where, if you're 18, you should at least have a 1 page resume. Your resume should go from the top of the page to the bottom. Do not ever hand in a resume that's a half a page. There's things that you have done, volunteer work if you've never actually worked or whatever, and that you can put on there, things you've done in school or different projects you've assisted on or led, that everybody's resume should be at least 1 page. You should at least have 1 page about yourself.
Very true.
Targeting the job. So identify what task the employer wants you to do on the job. Have you performed that task in the past? Is it listed on your resume? So we're going to always go back to this point. You could have done this task 100 times at one of your old jobs, 5 or 6 years ago, whatever. But if it's not on your resume, we don't know about it. Or an employer, and then an employer definitely doesn't know about it. So even if Andre was talking to an employer, he's talking to an employer and saying they did this and that, and the person is looking at the resume. So they're seeing, you know, even Andre may know the customer personally and, has been working with this person for a while. But if it's not on the resume, then he's speaking for something that the employer can't even see. So just make sure that it's always on your resume. Sometimes the skills the employer needs may have come from a previous job in another industry. Remember, a computer program may determine your fit for a job based on what experience you share. Always be truthful, but never, ever, ever sell yourself, sell your skills short.
And that last point is very, very important. Be truthful, because later on we'll speak about, or we'll just touch briefly on references. So when the employer calls your references, they'll verify most of the things that are on your resume. So if the reference can verify essentially the skill that you have or the task that you've done, that's definitely not a good look. But never sell yourself short. A lot of the tasks that we're assigned with, a lot of the tasks or responsibilities that we have various transferable skills. So you just have to sit down and think about what you've done and how many times you've done it, and to be able to say you are proficient in that task to put it on your resume. All right. So resume mechanics. The first third of your resume should tell the reader if your resume is worth reading further. The opening snapshot should entice readers to read more. Use more concise language. Use more concise language than usual. Don't start a job experience with I. And I always tell my job seekers that. To show employers what you're capable of, don't forget to include transferable skills and accomplishments. Make good use of keywords, integrating information you've gathered in your research. Don't forget to be specific. Recount the last 10 years of your work experience approximately. Like the question, you might have only had one past experience or one employment opportunity in the last 10 years, but you've been in multiple different positions in that opportunity, hopefully. But even not, if you've been in the same position for the past 10 years, you still have a plethora of things that you can list, but you want to keep that concise.
Cover letters. I know you always hear, should I have a cover letter? Do I need a cover letter? So the purpose of the cover letter is to introduce yourself to an organization, demonstrate your interest in the company or a specific vacancy, draw attention to your resume, motivate the reader to interview you. Often this letter is the first contact you have with a prospective employer. It can help tie your skills together for the employer to notice. So a lot of times they may read your cover letter before they actually read your resume. And depending on what you say in these 2 or 3 paragraphs, it basically sometimes, like you said, entices you to want to read their actual resume to say, oh, wow, okay. So they said they had all this stuff going on in the cover letter and they're willing to do this and that and this and that. And then, when I look at the resume and I see the actual places that they've worked, the length of time that they've worked there, and a lot of the skills that they've acquired, then this is a person I really may want to sit down and talk to.
Yes, indeed. And cover letters also show an extra initiative, essentially. It shows that you're willing to go to additional step to show about your interest in the opportunity and to also express your employment background, which is what you know in those transferable skills. Not all opportunities require a cover letter. Some opportunities do require a cover letter, but if you're in contact with the recruiter, I would definitely send one to just show I would say it gives it an extra oomph. The cover letters are important. So references. References are a separate document with contacts who can validate you. Should include basic contact information such as name, number, and email address. And please make sure your contacts know you're using them as contacts. And that last one is very important. Well, first you want to use viable people that you know will speak kindly on your name, but won't make things up. So definitely I would choose supervisors, managers, anybody that's essentially above you or that worked with you that is a credible source that would vouch for you. But then you can also use people in other organizations that you're involved with. You can use mentors, somebody that will speak highly about you, but still will keep it honest. And then, like I said, you just want to be careful about who you choose because you don't want to choose anybody that would essentially potentially be detrimental to your reputation.
And that is true. But one of my things about references, please do not put them on the bottom of your resume. I've noticed that some people list their references with contact information on the resume. I think that references should be submitted if they're asked, if once they, the employer asks. I don't think that you should put this along with your cover letter and resume unless they ask you to.
Correct.
Yes, I think
Right.
this should be given when it's asked.
Right. And that last point, so Deja essentially spoke on the first point, but that last point is important. Make sure your contacts know you're using them as contacts. Make sure your references know because you don't want anybody calling your references essentially without them knowing. Because just it's courtesy. It definitely is courtesy. If you're giving out the name, number, and email address to one of your references without them knowing, that isn't that isn't nice. That isn't polite. Essentially giving out information in which they didn't consent to. But then also it gives them time to essentially make up their mind about what they can say about you or how they can say about you, or even give them the opportunity to be like, I don't want to be a reference for you, or for them to even accept or deny the request.
That is so true. Be mindful of your social media presence. So, we know about LinkedIn, which is something a professional tool, which is actually has helped a lot of people, a lot of job seekers get jobs. Because I think you can post your resume, your picture, your bio, and things like that on LinkedIn. We know that people use Twitter and Snapchat, Instagram, and Facebook also. So just know that a lot of these things are probably under your name in some sort of way. Sometimes you may have common friends with your employer, with the recruiter. So you just want to make sure that if there's some things on there, some pictures or things on there that are not as professional as you would like to be displayed to a recruiter who doesn't really know you but is considering hiring you, that you make your page private so that they're not able to see some of your comments and your pictures that are not necessarily professional. Um, so, and just know that, the digital footprints that you leave, nothing really erases from the internet or the cloud once you put it on there.
Yeah.
It never erases. So it's somewhere. Somebody can pull it up from somewhere. So you don't want to have had a very good resume, great cover letter, a great interview, and then they look your name and then they see some things that are that they don't feel like you would be a good employee. I mean, and it happens. So just be mindful of making your pages private so that only your friends can see it. And if it's too inappropriate, maybe you should maybe take it off of some of those sites. That's just suggestion. Anything, Andre?
No, I totally agree. A lot of reference people use, they say if you don't think your grandmother will like it, don't post it. Um, I know we want to be expressive, we want to show our true selves, but a lot of times everything isn't for the public. Um, yeah, everything isn't for the public. Or even if your social media account is private, people could have malicious intent. So they can screenshot it. And as we've all seen that screenshots from somebody's private page or anything private, but screenshots are really powerful. So definitely, if you don't think it should be out there, if you don't think your grandmother would like it, if they saw it, don't post it. All right. So frequently asked questions. Should I include an objective? I've heard conflicting opinions. So an objective is very important. Essentially, it gives you a quick excerpt, and like one a couple slides before is a snapshot. So it gives you a quick excerpt of who you are, what you want to do, who you are, and what you want to do, and some of the skills that you have. So that's definitely important. What do you think, Daisha?
I completely agree. I believe you should have an objective. Some people call it professional summary. They call it so many different things now, but yes, I do think that you should have 1 to 2, maybe even possibly 3 sentences that really kind of gives, like you said, a very quick snapshot of who you are, listing some of those keywords and skills in there. Um, it doesn't hurt. It definitely, because most employers, when they're reading your resume, that's the first thing that they're going to read.
Yes, yes, indeed. All right, next question. I've just created a LinkedIn profile. Do I still need a resume? Absolutely, yes. Just because you have a virtual profile doesn't mean you don't need a resume, digital resume or a physical resume. A resume is always needed because employers aren't going to ask for your LinkedIn. When you're applying for a job, they're going to ask for a resume. So definitely a resume is important. And the nice thing about LinkedIn is that you can put your resume on LinkedIn. So in case an employer or recruiter is on looking for somebody with your skill set or your background, you can definitely go on, add your resume, and then that way the employer can see your profile, see all of your skills, essentially see everything that's on your resume on the profile, but they still want that hard copy of the resume so they can potentially put in your system, reach out to you with it. Yeah, reach out to you with it. If they don't want to message you on LinkedIn, they can email you separately or even call you if you have your phone number on it.
Okay, that was really good information. And yes, you always, always, always will need a resume. That's the document that is definitely the one that you're going to always need, like Andre said. That's not optional at all. So we have some more frequently asked questions. Where can I find good examples of resumes? So Google is my I use Google and I'll put resume for office support worker, 3 years of experience, and then it'll show you a whole bunch. You can go to the images, you'll see a whole bunch. It'll show you a bunch of different sites that have resume templates. Some of those sites that we talked about earlier, MWE, Indeed, you should be able to see some resumes on there. Um, so always like put in, you can Google just very simple, like I said, office support or warehouse, 3 years of experience. And then you'll see how other people have worded similar duties. And then it'll kind of give you an idea of where you kind of need to start.
Yeah, definitely. I was gonna say Google as well. Google has everything, literally has everything. And if you can't find it on Google, most likely it doesn't exist. So definitely Google is a great place, great resource that everybody should use.
I'm trying to fit my resume onto one page and it's not working. Any advice? So I know that I was doing a resume for a customer about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I had told her that I really felt like it needed to be at just one page because it was about 2 or 3. And I tried to get it to one page. It went to like maybe 1.5, and that was okay because she's had over 20 years of work experience. But I felt like 3 was just a little bit more than what she needed. So I mean, if you can't exactly get it to one page because of the number of jobs, the number of relevant jobs that you've had, and the amount of experience, because you could, like somebody had said earlier, they could have been at a job for 10 or 20 years. And then they could have had other jobs since then that have relevant experience to where they're trying to go right now. So yes, sometimes it's just not going to fit on one page. That does not, but 1.5 or 2 pages is okay if that's, as long as you're not kind of going over the resume rules of having more than 3 or 4 bullets per job, unless, like Andre was saying, you've been at a company for 20 years and had numerous positions and you're listing the positions and the dates and it's all in that 20 or 15-year length of time. That's different.
Yep. So definitely one page. If you do have an extensive work history, it won't work. I know me myself, I have one page right now, and that's barely. I definitely had to shorten a lot of descriptions, move some things around just to have a clean, concise one pager. But in the future, that won't be anymore. But a question did just come up. Thank you. Do you recommend people that have hard to spell names, essentially to shorten their names? It is a personal preference whether you want to shorten their name or not. I know we're all individuals. We all have our own names. Be proud of your name. If that's the name you were given, definitely. If you want to put your name on there, go ahead and by all means do it. And then also individualizes you, and it gives you more of a specific reference to an employer. Um, yeah. So I definitely, it's a personal opinion. If you want to or not, it's your own preference. But I know me myself, I do appreciate when I see different names because see people from different backgrounds, and that way I can just more appreciative for people from different backgrounds. That's my opinion.
I think that was a good way to answer the question. It is a personal preference on how you put your name. As long as when you fill out the legal documents, you put your actual legal name.
Correct.
So
Yeah. Because after all, the resume isn't like anything legally binding. So if you do want to put a shorter name on the resume, by all means. But like this just said, when it actually comes to legal documentation, you have to put your official name. All right. So my 2 cents. So prepare. So these are essentially steps. So in the preparation stage, you want to prepare your resume, what I want to do, and where I want to work. Essentially, you're preparing to apply for an opportunity. And then you also want to network, which is the second stage. You want to branding, network, and branding, Facebook and LinkedIn. So essentially, branding is making an image for yourself. Also going on Facebook and either want to clean it up or just make a professional platform for yourself. And also with LinkedIn, that's the utmost professional platform that you want to publicize about yourself and publish about yourself so people can see the more professional side of you. And then apply. So essentially, when it comes to applying, it's applying for the opportunity. You want to adjust the keywords and apply and follow up. So once you do submit that application, once you do submit that resume, you always want to follow up with the recruiter or follow up with the employer.
And just to touch on one thing is that, just because you use one certain resume for, you applied for maybe 5 or 6 jobs, it might be a few more jobs that you might see another day, and you may have to do another resume touch up. So always make sure you just take another look at your resume, make sure your grammar, your punctuation is right. Make sure if you have to take out some keywords and add some additional ones, do that. Because you just always, like he said, this is the first impression. They're not going to actually speak to you at first. And you just want to make sure that if they're using this ATS system, that, your resume pops out. Your resume stands out in a sense in the crowd, and they're able to say, okay, these people are, this person is actually, the skills are matching. So I do want to sit down and talk to them.
Yep. And ATS is much more in depth than what we've spoke on today. So definitely, if you have the time, go ahead and look at how an ATS system works to see how you can configure your resume to essentially be boosted in those systems. There are a lot of tricks. There are some unethical things on there, but please be ethical, do the right thing to have your resume be essentially moved to the top.
So final thoughts. So, like we said, multiple resumes for certain people. You're going to need a base resume for each job that you have. So that could be warehouse, security, construction, office work, different things like that. From there, each resume needs to be updated to respond to the job you're currently applying to. So that is something that we did talk about a little bit earlier, that make sure that, sometimes you have to do a little update just before you apply for this job. Be sure to highlight skills and tasks performed related to the job requirements. Keywords. How many times can we say this? So use the terms and activities listed in the job posting. Don't use secretary when the employer uses administrative assistant. So pay very close attention to the language that they use and make sure that your language is kind of the same. Include keywords and phrases in your cover letter. So, cover letters, I've known when I've applied to jobs, I've had to make some changes to my cover letter just to make myself more attractive to this employer. So just make sure that you do that. It usually doesn't take that long. And just like you can Google resume templates, you can also Google cover letter templates. So you can see how other people have described this position in the past.
Yep. And so definitely like a point on multiple resumes. I know me myself, I have multiple resumes, and on some of them I don't have all of my past work experience because it's not relevant for the position or the field that I'm interested in. So definitely having multiple resumes is a plus because you get to pick and choose what resume you want to send to an employer that has the information that's pertinent to the opportunity that's presented. All right. MOD Facebook Live on the ones. So now it's every Tuesday and Thursday, we're doing job preparation and readiness workshops. And then on Wednesdays at 1 o'clock, we have MOD virtual recruitments and job club. So essentially the way we've altered it, we've taken Thursdays, instead of having job club on Thursdays, we just combined it on Wednesdays with the virtual recruitments. And now on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're having job preparation and readiness workshops. So essentially, we ramped up the schedule essentially so we can have more training opportunities and workshops during the week, so we wouldn't have any of our job seekers waiting for any of the sessions. So definitely is a change we made, but we think it'll be great.
So if you need further assistance, we're going to always talk about this assistance request form, because this will, once you fill this out and let them know what you need, they will send you directly to a career development facilitator or a business service rep, so that we can kind of start that process with you. And these are some things that we're able to help with. Resume assistance. So just giving your resume an extra look and letting you know some things that need to be updated, some changes that should be made so that you can get these interviews. Interview preparation. So we can go through mock interviews with you. I've worked with customers and let them know, based off of their resume, some skills that they should be highlighting in the interview. And then also some weaknesses, because a lot of people get tied up on what should my weaknesses be. Referrals to employers. I think that's more of the business service rep unit. So once you get to that part, once you get to meet with a career development facilitator like myself, then we pass you on to a business service rep, and then they start working with you directly with employers. Technical job application assistance. So, we're still working remotely. So if you get kind of stuck putting in an online application, please feel free to reach out to us so that we can kind of help you get through that process a little bit more quickly, because some things is something you may not have realized that you might have missed. Training information. So if you're interested in, doing training in the city, please reach out to us, because those opportunities are still going on, even during COVID. And then career guidance. We have a lot of assessment tools to help you and assist you to kind of guide you to what is your next move. So.
Yeah, I'm glad you broke all of those down, Daisha. I really appreciate that. All right. So it looks like we've come to the end. So definitely, if anybody else has any questions at all, please by all means, go ahead and contact us. You can contact myself. You can contact Daisha. You can go ahead and contact Job Clubs NWCC at oedworks.com. Or even if you're still on here, you can go ahead and add the question and somebody else will follow up with you. But if we don't have any right now, I would just want to say thank you for everyone for being here. Thank you for your time. Daisha, thank you for presenting today with me. And if you have any other words, by all means, you go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for letting us come on again. And hopefully you got a lot of information on resumes, and, you'll reach out to us with any questions.
Yes, indeed. All right. And that is it for today. I hope to see you guys next time. All right. See you.